I'm going to show you something that's probably going to make you angry. So if you're a veteran with a TSP, a pension, and VA disability compensation, you are sitting on one of the most tax-advantaged income combinations in America. And there's a very good chance that you're letting a huge chunk of it just get taxed anyway. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because nobody ever showed you the math. So here's a number that I want you to remember. A veteran with a $400,000 TSP who withdraws $30,000 a year in retirement will pay over $100,000 in federal taxes on that money alone. Now that's money that they've already earned, money that they were disciplined enough to save, and it's just taxed on the way out. Now that same veteran is probably spending their VA compensation, the one income stream that is completely tax-free, on things like groceries and gas, and just letting the most powerful financial asset that they have just evaporate month after month. So I'm Dan Farnsworth, retired naval officer, 23 years in the Navy, and founder of Victory X Financial. And in the next several minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly where veterans are losing money to unnecessary taxes and what to do about it. So let me lay out the income structure that most military retirees are working with. Because when you see all the pieces together, the tax problem becomes obvious. You got your military pension. It's taxed as ordinary income, every dollar. You got your TSP, whether it's traditional or Roth. Now most veterans are in the traditional, and every withdrawal in retirement is taxed as ordinary income, every dollar. You might have a civilian salary or a second career, taxed. And then you've got your VA disability compensation, and that's not taxed. Not federally, not at the state level. Every penny is yours. Now here's what typically happens. A veteran retires, they start drawing their pension. Maybe they got a civilian job on top of that. So between pension, salary, and eventually TSP withdrawals, they're pushing themselves into the 22 or even 24% tax bracket. Some of you are higher than that. And the VA comp, well, it's getting spent. Bills, lifestyle, whatever, gone every month. So the one income stream that has zero tax liability, the one stream where every dollar could be working for you with no government taking a cut, is the one being treated like pocket change. So let me put real numbers on this. So take a veteran pulling in $45,000 a year from their pension and $30,000 from TSP withdrawals. So that's $75,000 in taxable income. Even after the standard deduction, they're looking at roughly $8,000 to $14,000 in federal income tax every year. Over a 25-year retirement, that's around $375,000 in federal taxes paid based on your pension, your TSP, and your Social Security starting at roughly age 67. Now layer in state income tax if you live in a state that taxes military retirement, and a lot of you do, you're adding thousands more per year. And that's money that you've already earned, money the government already taxed when you were active duty. And now they're just taxing it again when you pull it out. And the worst part, most veterans don't even realize how much they're paying because it comes out gradually. Little here, little there. It doesn't feel like $375,000, but it is. So let's zoom in on the TSP specifically, because this is where I see the biggest blind spot. So your entire career, you were told to max out your TSP. Put in as much as you can. Get that match if you're under BRS. And that's not bad advice while you're earning, because you're deferring taxes during your highest income years. That makes sense. But nobody talks about what happens on the back end. When you start pulling from a traditional TSP in retirement, every withdrawal is taxed at your ordinary income rate. There's no special capital gains treatment, there's no tax-free provision, it's straight income tax. And here's what really gets me. The government has been running deficits for decades. Tax rates are not going down. If anything, most projections say they're going up, which means that money you deferred at a 22% rate could get taxed at 25, 28, or higher when you actually need it. You didn't save on taxes, you just postpone them. and you might end up paying more than if you'd just been taxed up front. Now let me ask you this, if you knew that there was a way to create retirement income that would never be taxed, not when it grows, not when you take it out, and not when your family receives it, would you keep dumping every available dollar into a TSP? That's not a trick question. That's just math. And this is where it gets interesting. So your VA disability compensation is tax-free. You already know that. But most veterans stop there. They think the tax benefit of VA comp is just that you don't pay taxes on the check. But that's the surface level understanding. The real advantage goes much deeper because that tax-free income can be repositioned. So think about it this way. If you take $1,000 a month from your VA comp and you redirect it into a tax-advantaged growth structure, a structure where the money grows tax-free, you access it tax-free, and your family inherits it tax-free, well, you've just created a tax-free pipeline. Tax-free in, tax-free growth, tax-free out. Now compare that to your TSP, taxed in, well, tax deferred, and taxed on the way out. Or your pension, taxed as income every month until you die. The VA comp is the only income stream in your financial life where you can move it from one tax-free vehicle into another tax-free vehicle and never pay a dime in taxes on any of it. And yet, in most veteran households, that is the first money spent. It hits the checking account and it's gone by the 15th. So let me give you a concrete example. So a veteran with an 80% rating is receiving about $2,300 a month in VA comp. That's $27,600 a year. Over 45 years, that's $1.2 million that touches their hands tax-free. Now, if all of that gets spent, which is frankly what happens for most veterans, the total lifetime benefit is $1.2 million, period. And when they pass, it's over. Family gets nothing. Now take that same veteran and say they redirect $1,000 a month, so less than half of their comp, into a tax-free growth structure for 25 years. So that's $300,000 that gets redirected. At 65, that $300,000 has grown to roughly $750,000 in tax-free cash value. And from there, they begin drawing approximately $71,000 per year in tax-free income. And their family receives a death benefit of at least $540,000 tax-free. So the total lifetime tax-free impact is over $2.7 million. And that's all from income that was just going to get spent on things they probably won't even remember 5 years from now. And here's the kicker, they don't pay a single cent in taxes on any of it. Not on the VA comp going in, not on the growth, not on the retirement income, and not on the death benefit. And meanwhile, their buddy who maxed out his TSP is still writing checks to the IRS every April. Now, you might be wondering why your financial advisor hasn't brought this up. And honestly, most of them don't understand these strategies. They know 401ks, IRAs, brokerage accounts. That's their world. They default to the same playbook they use for everyone else. Max out your TSP, buy index funds, maybe a target date fund. Hope it works out. And that advice isn't designed to minimize your tax burden. It's just designed to be simple enough that they don't have to think about your specific situation. Well, that's not good enough. Not when you have income streams that are fundamentally different from what a typical civilian earns. And not when you have a tax-free advantage that most Americans would do anything to have. You deserve a strategy that was built for the way that you earn. Not one that was built for someone else and loosely adapted to fit you. Look, I want to be direct about something. Every month that you spend that VA comp without repositioning a portion of it, you're not just missing growth. You're choosing the taxed path by default. Because that pension gap that you'll feel at 60 or 65 or 70, you're going to feel it somehow. And if you haven't built a tax-free income stream, you'll feel it with your TSP withdrawals, which means much more taxable income, which means a higher bracket, which means that more money goes to the government. And it compounds in the wrong direction. So a veteran who starts redirecting income at age 35 has a dramatically different outcome than one who starts at 50. Now, both can build wealth and both can build tax-free income, but time is the multiplier. And every year you wait, the math just gets harder. And I'm not saying this to pressure you. I'm saying this because I've sat across from 55-year-old veterans who looked at the numbers and said, why didn't someone tell me about this 15 years ago? And the answer is always the same. Nobody in their financial life knew about the opportunities I'm describing. I know. I was in the same boat before I discovered them myself. But here's what I want you to do right now. Click the link below this video and book a free strategy session with me. There's no cost, right? There's no obligation, no pitch. And on that call, I'll look at your specific income, your pension, your VA rating, your TSP balance, your age, and I'll show you exactly how much you're currently losing to taxes that you don't have to pay. These are real numbers, your numbers. And then I'll show you what it looks like when we fix it. What your tax-free income could be, what your family receives when you're gone, and how much of your money stays yours instead of just going to the IRS. Look, even if we never work together, you'll leave that call knowing more about your financial position than 95% of veterans ever will. That's not a sales pitch, that's a promise. But I work with a limited number of veterans at a time because every plan we build is custom. So if this video hit home, don't just sit on it. Look, the tax code isn't just going to wait for you to get around to it. So click below, pick a time, let's look at your numbers. I'm Dan Farnsworth, Victory X Financial. Stay sharp, stay ready.